Hey guys, so I'm waiting for midnight to get here so I can go get the Switch. So I'm a little bored right now. I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn for a little while, but I was taking a break and I figure, you know what? Why don't we just record a video, because I won't be able to talk about much of this stuff at least till Monday since there's no news wave tomorrow. And I figured, you know what? Let's just talk about this stuff, get out of the way, and maybe there's some stuff you guys are interested in here. A lot of it does reflect the Switch because there's a lot of news coming out about things like updates and Zelda and all this stuff. Here, we'll talk about it now. So the first thing up is the Day One patch for the Switch was thought to fix the Joy-Con issues, but it looks to be hit or miss. It doesn't look like it's across the board, if at all. Now, what happened was GameXplain actually took this idea and ran with it and tried to make it work, or prove it that it would actually work. So they took their Joy-Cons, updated their Switch. Now, according to a lot of sources on the Reddit are popping up all over the place, you have to have your Joy-Cons in the system, reboot it so that the system can then fix the Joy-Con issue, because that's how it would communicate to the Joy-Cons. However, according to GameXplain's video, they showed it clear as day. It's still not working. In fact, they actually had more issues when they actually took their hand and covered just to the side of the actual Joy-Con. It would just stop talking and communicating to the system. Now, I'm still pretty confident this has to do with the Bluetooth signal strength, but I have another idea that it might have something to do with where the Bluetooth antenna is actually located. Specifically, when he did cover that one side with his hand, it started acting up really bad to the point where it didn't even communicate anymore and just stopped. So I have a feeling if I open the Joy-Con, I might be able to find where the Bluetooth piece is and maybe see what their antenna placement is like. Now, I have been able to solder in wires to act as antennas to do things like increase range, but it really wouldn't increase the signal strength. So I may play around with it if it looks obvious to a spot where I can actually extend the antenna, but I'm not going to do it if it appears like it won't do much and could damage it, obviously, because I don't want to destroy a Joy-Con since they're 50 or 80 for 2. But I will at least get an idea. When I open the Joy-Con, I will look in there and see what's going on with this Bluetooth antenna. As far as we can tell right now, though, that Day One update had no effect on the Joy-Cons, at least according to GameXplain and other videos. Next thing up, guys, is, of course, Zelda Breath of the Wild. It started getting scores all over the place, which is ridiculous that I don't really know how it's going to be topped at all this year, at least this game, based on review scores and critical opinion, considering a lot of those times they're voted on by fans and then critics around the gaming world. I'm not really sure how it's going to be topped, because currently, after over 60 reviews, it's sitting at a 98 on Meta Critic, which is insane, because of course a lot of times a couple reviews will come in that are good, and whatever game it is will kind of stay up there, and then more will come in and it'll start to slowly lower just to average out. Well, Breath of the Wild started at 98 and has not moved since. And that was early this morning I saw this, when people started actually posting their reviews, and I don't know if it's going to move. I think it's staying right at 98, and I don't know what else would beat this game. Really, 98 is ridiculous. This might go down as the best Zelda game reviewed or of all time, depending on how we all embrace it also. I still need to play it. My favorite, of course, is Link to the Past. I've expressed that heavily, but based on how much of a change this game seems to be, how well it's being received, this might be it. I mean, this might be the best Zelda game ever made. IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, and as much as people like to complain about IGN, they don't really throw 10s around very often. For contrast, Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a great game, by the way, got a 9.3. So IGN throws a big number at it. Everyone else throws big numbers at it. Giant Bomb gives it a perfect score. Pretty much it's getting perfect scores everywhere. So I'm going to play it. I know I'm going to enjoy it, but it's good to see it's getting that recognition. Speaking of Zelda, we do also get a Day One patch. It's very small. It's not like a big patch or anything, but according to a lot of people, these are people who have had obviously early copies of the version and been playing it, this patch apparently fixes a lot of the frame rate issues. Now, if you missed some of the reviews, most of them mention frame rate issues with the Switch version, where occasionally you would get these big drops in frames for some reason, and then the frames would go right back up, and there was no obvious reason. It wasn't like it would always happen in big areas where all this stuff was happening. Sometimes it would happen when you're just like walking around. They were mentioning all of this. Apparently this patch is there to fix that issue. Now, there are people on, for example, Reddit or other journalists talking about how it did fix it. Then there are others saying it had no effect and it's exactly the same. So really, we're going to have to find out for ourselves. I still think frame rate is subjective. I think one person might be fine with a certain frame rate, another person is super sensitive to it, and if it drops at all, they freak out. So again, we'll have to. It's going to come down to personal experience. Apparently, the frame rate was not bad enough to hurt the scores, even though it was mentioned several times in all of the reviews. I think a lot of the reviews did not fault the game for that because they were thinking it would possibly get patched now day one like it did to fix that issue. Again, we're just gonna have to kind of run around in the woods and play around with it and see if the patch fixed anything. And after that day one update for the Switch that a lot of reviewers did get, something popped up that kind of confused them because we were told this wouldn't be there, but after going through and looking in the invite system, it appears that friends codes are still a thing on the Switch. Now, the word is here that still a thing, but not the only thing, which is good. There are still other ways to add people, which is going to go through things like social networks. So, for example, I believe you'll be able to use Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that to add friends. And then, of course, if you are playing a game like, let's say you're playing online with Mario Kart, you finish a match you liked playing with, one person for battle mode, you can actually send them a friend request afterwards, and then you can just be friends. You don't have to use friends codes. But if you find somebody, I guess in real life, you're at a convention and you just want a very, easy way, a way to just directly send them a friend message without actually having to, like a friend request, without actually having to find them randomly in a game, you can do that. But the cool thing here is if you are near them with your Switch, you can actually locally add them. So the systems will sync up and then you can just send them a friend request from there. It's also apparent that you don't have to both have each other's friend codes. If one person has a friend code of this person, they then send them a friend request. They just hit accept or decline. It's not just you both need each other's friend codes and hope it all works out with all of these numbers and letters, obviously. Now, I don't think it's a secret that most of us don't like friend codes. It's way more tedious and troublesome than it should be just to accept a friend request, because after that you don't need them anymore. But at least they're leaving it in there. It's not the only way to add friends. If it was the only way, it'd be frustrating, but it's not. So it's not a big deal. More than likely, we just won't use friend codes. You'll just add friends through local means, or people you find online, you then send them a friend request. And the last thing, Fire Pro Wrestling just got announced again today. They are bringing the series back. And this is Fire Pro Wrestling World. It's announced for the PS4 and the PC. If you don't know what Fire Pro Wrestling is, it's actually a really fun, kind of isometric wrestling game. Okay, so it's not like super realistic simulation like you would see with a WWE wrestling game, like a 2K game, but I remember playing this a lot back in the day, especially on the PS2. They brought it back. It was called Fire Pro Wrestling Returns. It was a lot of fun, so I was looking forward to them eventually bringing another one out. The 360 and the PS3, I didn't ever really see one that was big or advertised. Maybe it was over in Japan or something, but I didn't play anything on that. I just played it on the PS2, and it's cool to know that it's coming back and it's going to be on the PC. So if I want to grab it on there, I can, or I grab it on my PS4. It's Fire Pro Wrestling Worlds. They said it'll be out sometime 2017, probably later on towards the end of the summer. And that's it for now, guys. I need to go and get my Switch, so make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Definitely subscribe, because live unboxing tonight and then all kinds of teardowns, pictures, unboxing. It's going to be crazy. Tomorrow is going to be insane. So make sure you are subscribed so you see all the updates. I will see you guys tonight.